Laker fans want a trade, and many fans think they may have found their new trade target, that being the New Orleans Pelicans. Following a report saying that nobody on their team is untouchable, quote unquote, coming from Kevin O'Connor of The Ringer, along with a new report, or rather allegations, with Zion Williamson, which can make their team completely wide open and their future very unpredictable, the Pelicans might be a good trade target for their team, or really any team this offseason, as they might not be unwilling to part with anyone. But with that in mind here, are they a good trade target for the Lakers? And if they are, what players should they target, if anybody, on their team? And at what price? We'll talk about that and go through each player one by one. But before we get too far into it, don't forget to check out G2A.com. They got your best new games like Elden Ring Night Rain, and at the cheapest price available too. So be sure to check them out in the video description down below. But now getting back to our topic, and talking about the New Orleans Pelicans here, they're definitely quite the mess. I mean, if you think the Lakers are a mess, which I definitely have seen fans saying and talking about, then you have no idea what it must feel like to be a Pelicans fan, unfortunately. They've really been going through it throughout the past year now, trading for a guy like Trey Murphy, who then went on to tear his Achilles at the early part of the season, continuous problems with Zion Williamson, everything from weight issues, and if you think Luka Doncic has weight problems, then you really have no comparison to Zion Williamson. The guy's really been through it despite looking a whole lot better lately. That's only one part of it. Even with that, like I mentioned, the allegations made about him, and whether they're true or not, there is some off-the-court problems with him, and I probably would not even think about making a trade for him. So I definitely think we can cross him off the list. And even apart from that, not even talking about who I would or wouldn't trade for on their team, they got some other problems too. Salary cap issues, they're pushing the first apron and don't even have a relatively competitive team, have an aging team with guys like CJ McCollum who are on an expiring contract, have some younger guys but not a definitive go-to number one option, and a guy they really can't build a team around yet. Might have that with Trey Murphy, but like the report said, there is nobody on their team that's deemed untouchable, so they are willing to make any kind of trade for the right price. So like I mentioned, we'll go through them one by one and determine if they will be worth trading for and at what price. And we already kind of ruled out Zion Williamson. I don't think that's a good trade target for the Lakers, and especially now with the allegations with him, so we're going to move on from him. After that, we got Trey Murphy, who I already said has a torn Achilles, might make it back at around mid-season, maybe not, and I definitely would not be looking to trade for him. Yes, he is a guy that has been linked to their team before, is a Clutch Sports client, so he does have that connection, but I'm not making a trade for an injured point guard that might not be the same after coming back from that truly traumatic injury. After him though, we do have CJ McCollum. I touched on him with the expiring contract that he has, and even apart from that though, not really a position the Lakers need and not really a skill set they need. Kind of a secondary ball handler, second option or third scoring option on offense. He is 33 years old and really not part of a short-term rebuild or even really a contending team, I guess. I'm not sure he's what the Lakers need and not really what they're missing at this point. So not even going to make a hypothetical trade for him, as I'm not looking to trade for him. After that though, we got the first big target on their team, and that will be Trey Murphy, who, like I said, if they're trying to build around anyone, it probably would be Trey Murphy, coming off a season of averaging over 21 points per game, knocking down plenty of three-point shots and a pretty high volume at that, is a good rebounder, is a solid defender, has great two-way potential, and he could potentially be a building block for their team, so it would take a lot to get him. In regard to matching the salary, it would take something like both of Maxi Kleber and Gabe Vincent with Dalton Connect, or then Rui Hachimura and one of Gabe Vincent or Maxi Kleber, then with pretty much every draft asset they have to offer, including their 2031 first-round draft pick, completely unprotected, every pick swap they have to offer, the only second-round draft pick they have to offer, then probably throwing in a guy like Dalton Connect as well. And for that price, it would be debatable. If you're not aware of who Trey Murphy is or what he can offer, yes, I think it actually is conversation worthy, as he definitely is that good and I think would be a solid fit for their team. Like I said, great three-point shooter, can be a high volume catch and shoot guy, can be a legitimate second option, and maybe a guy to pair with Luka Doncic going forward. So I think about it, If they could somehow get him without trading Austin Reeves, then I definitely would do it, but I'm not sure they'll be able to. At the end of the day here, I think it would take Austin Reeves to get him, and that's even if the Pelicans want him. Maybe they do, maybe they don't, but it would be very tough to get Trey Murphy. With that in mind though, he would be one of the few guys I would consider trading Austin for. I think he'd be an upgrade in some ways, could fit as Luka Doncic's sidekick, or even with both of Luka and LeBron for the short-term future. I think he'd be a great fit for their offense, would be a slight upgrade on defense over Austin, but I'm not sure I'd do it if it would take more than Austin. Definitely a good conversation piece here, but probably not very likely. But after Trey Murphy, then we have another talented wing and a very good two-way wing, that being Herb Jones. I've talked about him a bit on the channel. He might be available. Coming off an injury-plagued season, some fans don't really like the idea of it, but that's not what you should be looking at here with Herb Jones. Really the first injury that he's gone through, and I'm not taking it into too much consideration here. I don't think it's a long-term problem with him. Is a combination of some stuff, but he should be healthy heading into this season, and I think he'd be a perfect fit for their team. Now I'm not sure if I would trade Reeves for him. I think they have a very similar trade value, so I think it would be possible, and not a terrible trade to make, and probably equal value for both teams, kind of. Obviously getting more offense with Austin Reeves, but getting a lot more defense with Herb Jones. I mean, is a first-team All-NBA selection at this point, back in 2023. Finished 5th in Defensive Player of the Year voting that year, is a elite wing defender, and yes, even at that level, go back and watch some film if you don't believe me, the guy's that good. And even apart from that, is a very switchable defender, can truly defend and match up 1 through 4, even 1 through 5 in a very small ball lineup, but apart from that, great defender, versatile defender, very committed defender, and would obviously be a gigantic upgrade for their team on defense. And if they somehow could get him without trading Austin Reeves, then yes, I definitely would do it. Whether that means trading Rui Hachimura with Dalton Connect, or some other combination that wouldn't require that much salary, as like I said, Herb Jones does have an equal salary to Austin Reeves, making $13.9 million next season. So yes, you could trade Austin, but if they could get away with not trading him, including something like I said, maybe Rui Hachimura, then having to take more salary back from the Pelicans, or maybe instead offering something like either Gabe Vincent or Maxi Kleber, Dalton Connect, their unprotected 2031 first-round draft pick, a future first-round draft pick swap or two, then maybe some other asset, potentially that might be enough, albeit probably not likely. Regardless though, yes, I definitely would be interested in a trade for Herb Jones, even being willing to include the Lakers' best trade assets, and I think it definitely would be worth it. In my opinion, he's a perfect, if not near perfect fit for their team. Great defender, even elite at that when healthy. Great three-point shooter. His last healthy season, he did shoot roughly 42% from the three-point line on fairly high volume three-point shooting. Is fairly young yet, would fit the timeline for their team both right now and then with Luka Doncic's future with their team. So I think he'd be a great trade target, especially if it would not take Austin Reeves to get him. And well, after those two, there's a massive drop-off in trade value here. After Herb Jones and Trey Murphy, both of which I really like and definitely would pursue via trade, then we're looking at guys like Kelly Olynyk, Jose Alvarado, who don't get me wrong I like, but not compared to Herb Jones or Trey Murphy. Younger players like Jordan Hawkins, and probably a guy they wouldn't trade like Yves Missi, and then simply veteran minimum contract guys. But beginning with Kelly Olynyk, I guess I'd have minor interest in trading for him. I've talked about him a few times here on the channel, thinking he'd be a decent fit for their backup center, but that was more so prior to them trading for Luka Doncic. I think it'd still be a decent fit, doesn't really offer vertical spacing ability, i.e. being a lob threat, but can be a floor spacing big man, actually shot incredibly well from the three-point line last season, has been a proven option as a three-point shooting spacing big man, is still fairly productive yet despite his age being 34, is a decent rebounder, somehow continuously ranks well on defense despite not being very athletic or being a good shot blocker, but he does rank average to above average pretty much every year per defensive BPM. So with that in mind here, if they could somehow do it with an expiring contract and then maybe a veteran minimum contract like Shake Milton, some combination like Maxi Kleber with Shake Milton, maybe a second round draft pick, and probably not willing to offer much more than that, then I might have slight interest in it. Again, not the perfect fit, but definitely an upgrade compared to what they have at backup center right now, which is not even really anything. But then after Kelly Olynyk, then we got Jordan Hawkins. Quite the salary drop off here, roughly a $9 million decrease, and that would make it easier to trade for him, but I'm not really interested in making a trade for him. Don't get me wrong, I like Jordan Hawkins. If I remember correctly, he was one of my favorite draft targets back in the 2023 NBA draft. Unfortunately, didn't fall to the Lakers at pick 17 where they took Jalen Hood-Schifino, but I did like him and still do. The only problem here is that they kind of have their own version of Jordan Hawkins, that being Dalton Knecht, and with both of them being pretty much the same age, offering similar production, being great three-point shooters, talented offensive players in general, but not great defenders and have a long ways to go in that regard, I'm not sure it really makes sense to trade for him. So moving on from Jordan Hawkins, we'll finish up with our final trade target on the Pelicans, and that happens to be Jose Alvarado. And here's a guy that I would be interested in. Not sure if they really want to trade him as he is still fairly young yet, could be a part of a short-term rebuild, and has been a good piece to their team for half a decade now at this point. And in regard to Jose Alvarado and what he does well on the court, that obviously being defense and simply being a pest. I mean, if you're talking about a scrappy, pest-like defender, then Jose Alvarado definitely comes to mind here. But even apart from that, apart from his scrappiness and what he does on defense, actually has turned into a solid offensive player too. Last season having a career-high 10.3 points per game, not to mention a career-high 4.6 assists per game on only 1.5 turnovers per game, nearly a 3 assist 2 turnover ratio here, and that's pretty good. And not to mention becoming a solid 3-point shooter, shooting above the 35% clip mark in 2 seasons in a row now, 35.9% on 5.5 attempts per game last season. And overall here, really good two-way production and continually showing improvement too. I think the only gripe here I'd have with him, and the thing that would be worth pointing out as a con, is his health. Not any major injury, but year by year does deal with something or a couple repetitive injuries. Has yet to hit the 65 game mark, played 56 games in back-to-back years now, and again, always seems to deal with something unfortunately. But in regard to a trade and what it would take to get him, only has a $4.5 million salary for next season, so not very much in that regard. Could simply combine a minimum contract with a smaller contract, something like Shake Milton with, maybe a guy like Jordan Goodwin if they would trade him and opt into a team option. That could be an option for them. Or I guess if for whatever reason they would want to offer Dalton Knecht, they could do that as well. I wouldn't go that route, but Jose Alvarado is a talented player, so it's not like they can get him for just nothing. If they would go the minimum contract route, it would probably take a couple future first round draft pick swaps to get him, at least one at the bare minimum, with their second round draft pick, and I think that would be a decent trade offer. Dalton Knecht would be a bit too much, and at that point I would want draft compensation back. Maybe if they would offer a future second round draft pick. Their only draft pick this season happens to be 7th overall, so they're not going to offer that, but maybe I guess if you'd want to trade Dalton Knecht, definitely ask for 2 future second round draft picks or maybe a future first round draft pick swap. That's probably what I'd value that at. But again, I wouldn't trade Dalton Knecht for Jose Alvarado. They kind of need a backup point guard if they look to trade Gabe Vincent, and in that regard I think Jose Alvarado would be a great replacement and a pretty solid fit for their team, but he's not overall my favorite trade target and a must-have player in my opinion. And with all of that being said, I definitely do like the Pelicans as a trade partner, potentially for a few of their players. Guys like Trey Murphy, Herb Jones, then Jose Alvarado, and maybe Kelly Olynyk. Guys like that I would have interest in, but I'm not sure if they will trade with the Lakers. Is a little bit of bad blood between them, I guess, after the Anthony Davis trade, and that didn't really work out for them. Trading literally every player they got from that trade away at this point. Brandon Ingram being the last survivor, and they traded him to Toronto last season. So I'm not sure they'd be extremely willing to make another trade with the Lakers, albeit probably wouldn't be completely against it. And well, with that being said here, what do you guys think? How do you like the Pelicans as a potential trade partner, and if you would make a trade with them, which players would you target on their team? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. But I think that'll pretty much do it for this one, and if you enjoyed the video, then I would greatly appreciate it if you dropped a like, hit that subscribe button if you have not already, and turn on notifications so you never miss out when I upload a video. But as always, thank you for watching and have a great day or night.